Now, you guys know how much I love Aria guitars. They represent, to my mind at least, some of the absolute best value for money instruments that you're likely to find. So whenever they come in the studio, I always ask if I can cover them, and this guitar is no exception. It's a really cool looking and very affordable, very warm sounding acoustic guitar. In the intro, you heard me playing with a combination of flat picking and some strumming. Let's turn our attention to some actual strumming tones. We're going to use a slightly thinner pick. We'll play some songwriter type strumming with a few less notes, and when we come back, we'll talk about the specifications. So now we've heard this guitar played in a couple of styles, we'll do some more examples in just a moment. Let's talk about the specifications, starting at the headstock. So starting at the headstock, we have our first departure from the sea of anonymous spruce dreadnoughts that we tend to see at this price point. And that's kind of cool. Now, that's no slur on the classic spruce dreadnought look, but I like the way this guitar looks. It kind of stands out from the crowd a little bit. So we have Aria's traditional 80s peg head. Big fan of this. I think it looks great. It looks really nice on this guitar too. We have 3-a-side kind of Ivoroid button open gear tuners. These look really nice. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to show you the back of the guitar. Get a look at that. So there we have our 6 open gear tuners. Again, a very nice aesthetic touch, especially at this price point, but they also feel really positive. They work really well. They're nice and accurate. We can also get a look at the back of the headstock and the back of the neck. Now, the neck is made of NATO, which is closely related to mahogany. It certainly looks like mahogany, but the back sides and top on this guitar are mahogany. So you can see there's not a whole lot of visual difference. I wouldn't expect a huge amount of tonal difference either. Now, the neck itself is, I guess, a little more electric feeling than it is traditionally acoustic feeling. It's very slim and quite broad, but that makes for a very playable experience, especially when you're doing kind of faster single note lines, which is something that this guitar will support you with, which is quite nice. So if we flip it back over, we can get a look at the fretboard. The fretboard is rosewood, which again is a nice touch because we see a lot of rosewood substitutes at this price point, but we are getting genuine rosewood here, which is pretty cool. Now let's turn our attention to the neck join. We have a 14th fret join, but this big deep cutaway is going to give us access right up to the 20th fret. So if you want to get up into the dusty end, it's there for you. And of course, we have this really cool, it's not Pelham blue, but it looks like Pelham blue, kind of sparkle blue-green finish. I think this looks really nice. Again, it sets this guitar out from the anonymous spruce dreadnoughts that we see a lot of, again, around this sort of price range. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's something that drives me nuts. I like guitars with a little bit of identity, and this guitar has it. Now, the body size is a little smaller than your typical dreadnought, so if you're a smaller framed guitarist, you're going to find this very comfortable, or if, like me, you just prefer a smaller bodied acoustic, this is going to do it for you. Now, it's not quite parlor sized. It's somewhere between, if I had to guess, I would say it's somewhere between orchestra and parlor in terms of size. And it's not super deep either, but it's also not a thin line, so you are going to get plenty of resonance and plenty of unplugged punch, which is important because this guitar, while it does have a piezo pickup, it's a passive piezo pickup, it's got to sound good unplugged too. Now, as we mentioned before, it's a mahogany top under here, but we also have mahogany back and sides. Let me just show you those real quick. So a nice bit of mahogany there, and another nice bit of mahogany here too. Good looking guitar all around. But the other thing about this is mahogany is a very mid-range forward and very warm sounding wood when used for acoustic guitars, and that is very much on display here. This guitar has a very warm, not super sparkly, but kind of like mid-range focused voice, which I think sounds cool. Sounds very rustic. There are non-coated strings on here too, so they're not crazy zingy. It has a bit of that old string sound, which I really like. Very quickly as well, I'm just going to show you this too. This is the end pin. This is where you plug the guitar in to use the piezo pickup, and it's a fully passive design. So there are no controls, you don't get tone or volume or any of that sort of stuff. And you guys will have heard me opine at length about how much I hate these big chunks of plastic with all the sliders on them. It's not for me. So I'm kind of a fan of this. Again, it's going to sound great if you plug it into an acoustic amp or you plug it directly into your interface. However, you should be aware that if you're going to plug this into a recording interface, you should use a high Z or high impedance input because it is going to be subject to loading. So if you plug this directly into your audio interface, you may get a little bit of high-end roll-off if you don't have that high Z instrument mode engaged. Or if you're going live into a PA, you'll probably need a DI box for this. But if you're going into an acoustic amp, it's probably going to sound absolutely fantastic. Speaking of which, let's take a listen to the sound of the piezo pickup direct to our recording interface, again using that high Z mode. So a nice clear and uncolored passive pickup sound. It's going to be perfect for playing live and also for getting your ideas down very quickly. You can plug this guitar in and it's going to sound pretty convincing. But let's go back to our mic setup for just a moment and let's explore just a couple more styles. We're going to start with some finger picking because, again, this guitar has a really nice, robust, mid-forward strumming voice, but it also sounds nice for more delicate styles. Let's take a listen to that. And one final example, and something that I think this mid-focused, rustic-sounding mahogany voice is great for, is a little bit of slide. So let's grab a glass slide. We're going to play some single notes and some shell chord voicings. Let's take a listen to that. So there you go, guys. That's been a look at the Aria FET-R1. It's a fully passive acoustic guitar, so there's no batteries needed. There are no things to dial in wrong. It sounds great plugged in, but it also sounds great acoustic. And of course, it is really, really affordable. And probably my favorite thing about it is how it looks. Of course, it sounds great, it plays great, but I really like that this guitar has its own identity. So if you're looking for an entry-level acoustic guitar that kind of has a bit of something about it, a bit of personality, this may well be the guitar for you. Once again, this is the Aria FET-R1. My name is Jennison for Guitar Interactive, and I will see you next time.